is Alan Singer. I'm a former New York City high school social studies teacher. I'm an historian, and I'm a professor of teacher education at Hofstra University. And if you're thinking of becoming a social studies teacher, consider coming to Hofstra and working with me. I have to tell you, I did attend your arch rival, the better half, the Bronx High School of Science. But you could tell from my white beard, that was some time ago. That was the 1960s. In the 1960s, you would not have attended Stuyvesant, Mosammad, because they didn't let girls in. Science let girls in. I'm the author of two books on slavery and history of New York. One is called New York and Slavery, Time to Teach the Truth. And the other is called, if I can remember the title of the book I wrote, the other is called New York's Grand Emancipation Jubilee. And they're both published by SUNY Press. And that's how I became interested in the topic. But I'm also a political activist, and I've been involved in the campaigns in New York City to change the names of locations and to get rid of some of the statues. I was involved in a very successful campaign to change the name of a park in the Bronx at 167th Street and River Avenue. It was named after a guy named Malavi, who was indicted during the Civil War for inciting the draft riot. I was also I was involved in getting the statue of James Marion Sims removed from Central Park, because James Marion Sims was a doctor who committed crimes against humanity, operating on enslaved Black women. So I'm also concerned about Peter Stuyvesant. In 2018, a mayoral advisory commission on city art, monuments, and markers was established. And they recommended the removal of the James Marion Sims statue. Although the committee did not call for removing the Theodore Roosevelt statue from the entrance to the American Museum of Natural History, the museum removed the statue because it was a paean to imperialism. Columbus Circle remained Columbus, and Stuyvesant, Peter Stuyvesant, was not even discussed in the 42-page report. In Manhattan, there is a Stuyvesant Square at 16th Street and 2nd Avenue with a statue of Peter Stuyvesant, the last Dutch governor of its New Amsterdam colony. There's a Stuyvesant Town residential development and a Stuyvesant High School. I think the names need to be changed.
I see. That's very understandable. So you just kind of talked about his history, but to someone who hasn't read any of your articles, which I will be linking, how would you explain your thoughts on Peter Stuyvesant?
Well, Peter Stuyvesant, he was the Director General of New Netherlands, which was a Dutch colony. And he personally owned 40 enslaved Africans. And he was the largest private slave holder in the Dutch New Netherlands colony. As Director General, he also tried to prohibit Jews and Catholics from settling in the European settlement of New Amsterdam. In 1647, when Stuyvesant became the Director General, he started to increase the number of enslaved Africans in the colony. And under his direction, enslaved Africans built the infrastructure of the early city. In 1660, Stuyvesant supervised was probably Manhattan's first public auction of enslaved human beings. The largest cargo of enslaved Africans, about a little under 300 people, arrived in New Amsterdam in 1664 on the ship called the Gideon, just before the colony was taken over by the British. Stuyvesant and company officials continually in their correspondence discussed the need for additional labor and importing more enslaved Africans. In 1654, 23 Jewish men, women, and children arrived in New Amsterdam after fleeing from the former Dutch colony of Recife in Brazil. When the ship docked, Stuyvesant seized their possessions and ordered that their possessions be sold at auction. He also wrote the Dutch West Indies Company office in Amsterdam asking permission to expel the Jews. When the company granted the Jews permission to remain, Stuyvesant then barred them from the colonial militia and charged them a special tax because they were not serving. He also refused to issue Jewish merchants trade permits. And the company in the end agreed that Jews in the colonies could be banned from holding public office, from opening a retail shop, or even establishing a synagogue. In 1654, Stuyvesant wrote to Dutch West Indies Company, and he described the Jews in the letter as the deceitful race, such hateful enemies and blasphemers of the name of Christ, be not allowed to further infect and trouble this colony. He referred to Jews as a repugnant race, as usurers, and was concerned that Jewish settlers should not be granted the same liberties enjoyed as Jews in Holland, lest members of other persecuted groups, such as Roman Catholics, be attracted to the colony.
That's a lot to take in, and it's clear that the fact that so many things are named after this person, despite his history, that something needs to change about that. So of course, this is going out to a Stuyvesant audience. I myself am from that school. So for example, we have a mascot / rep, and it's the peg legs. And that's kind of a direct relationship with Peter Stuyvesant and his peg leg. So should things like this change, and how can Stuyvesant change based on this, I would say, dark history?
Well, I think the nickname at Stuyvesant High School's football team, and it's the football team mascot.
Yeah.
I think it's a different issue, but I think it needs to be changed right away. As you know, in other sports, baseball, they changed offensive name. The Cleveland Indians are now the Cleveland Guardians. The Washington Redskins are now the Washington Commodores. A peg leg is a prosthesis. It's an artificial limb fitted to the remaining stump of a human leg, usually at the knee. And it's made of wood, they use leather. In 1644, Peter Stuyvesant was part of a Dutch attack on a Spanish fort in the Caribbean when his lower right leg was struck by a cannonball. The damaged leg was amputated and Stuyvesant was fitted with a wooden peg. I wonder if if students still consider it appropriate to make fun of a disability.
Right. That's absolutely valid. And it's very concerning that that peg leg is still a thing at Stuyvesant to this day. So hopefully this will raise that issue and things will be changed. And I do think it's possible. So lastly, how can Stuyvesant as a school ensure that we do not represent the values of Peter Stuyvesant?
This is the thing. Peter Stuyvesant's values, he valued slavery. He valued racism. He valued exploitation of Native Americans. He was an anti-Semite. He was anti-Catholic. I think if you want to avoid his values, the first step is to change the name of the school. There should be no school in New York City named after Peter. Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Brooklyn and in Queens and the outer boroughs, I'm known as the rapper Reese's Pieces. And kids call me Reese's Pieces because they recognize that I'm better than Eminem. So I want to kind of conclude with just a brief Peter Stuyvesant High School rap, all right? Peter Stuy, say goodbye. Racist past, he's an outcast. Enslaved blacks, hated Jews, tell the truth, spread the news. Hear my rhyme, now the time, he's to blame, change the name. Thank you, this is Reese's Pieces.
That was amazing. And I think that pretty much sums up everything you've said very well. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I think this insight will be helping everyone. I could post recordings of different YouTube videos of people talking about Peter Stuyvesant, which there are a lot of. I could screenshot text, but having someone who is knowledgeable about the issue come and speak is absolutely the best way to showcase this.